Hello and welcome to Bose Garage. So we are going to start a series of videos on how to clean your engine bay and how to detail your engine bay of any particular vehicle. But we chose to start with the good old Mahindra Jeep. This is a 1995 Mahindra CL500DI. It's almost 28 years old and has done close to 2.5 lakh kilometers. So don't expect the engine bay to be like very pristine. There are some oil leaks, fuel leaks and everything. So we will show you how to clean it up properly and how to detail it later on. And a lot of you might think now why we need to clean the engine bay.
Yes, that's a commonly asked question.
Yes. Everybody takes a lot of care to clean the body and everything, but they forget to clean the engine bay as well as the underbody.
Yes.
Most of the people don't do that because they are afraid that they might damage something. Actually, if you don't clean them, you are more prone to
Damaging your car yourself.
Yes, so make sure to clean your engine bay as well as the underbody, because the heart of any vehicle is the engine, gearbox and the associated mechanical parts.
Yes.
And all these are concealed within the body, inside the engine bay and the underbody. We will do a separate video for how to clean the underbody properly and what are the things to check. Even we can do a video regarding the greasing points for the Jeep.
Yeah, sure.
So this procedure is only for the good old Mahindra Jeeps, the diesel
good
ones.
old diesel ones.
Yes, don't try this with the petrol Jeeps. That will be another video and we will show you some additional precautions to be taken.
Yes.
And we will do some videos for the new generation vehicles. For example, the Gypsy, the Santro, or all this, how to clean the engine bay.
Yeah.
So let's start the video. Let's see what are the preparations to be done before we wash the engine bay of this particular vehicle. Before doing any work on the engine or the wiring or any mechanical activities, make sure that you disconnect the battery. In this case, as we are washing the engine, we will be disconnecting the battery and removing the battery from the battery tray, because if you keep the battery in position, after you wash the engine bay, there might be some traces of water that is trapped between the battery and the base of the battery, and it can develop rusting. So to avoid that, we will completely remove the battery from the engine bay. And the next thing is, we should at any cost avoid mixing of water with the engine oil. So we need to properly seal this oil dipstick, and this one has the old model breather cap, so we need to cover the breather cap as well. Normally we need to cover the air filter also, but this is the old model oil bath type air filter. So this one needs to be cleaned every 3000 kilometers. So we will be cleaning this air filter. So we are removing the air filter from the engine bay so that we will have better access to clean the fuel injection pump as well as the starter motor. So we'll be removing it, and then we will just leave the hose there and cover the tip of the hose. These are basically the precautions that we need to take. Sometimes some people are worried that they might damage the alternator, so they might cover the alternator as well. The new generation alternators are all properly sealed, and as long as you don't pour too much water on top of it, there shouldn't be any issues. And before you connect the battery, you can just blow it and dry it clean. If you are afraid, then better you cover the alternator. There is no issues with that. Now, why we are washing the engine is not just because we want it to be clean. There are a lot of things that we can check on a periodic basis if you wash the engine periodically. First thing, you can check for any oil or fuel leaks. Especially here you can see this engine bay hasn't been washed for the past 6 months. So you can see the rocker arm cover gasket is damaged and there is a bit of oil seepage. So this gasket needs to be replaced. This is already dried up. So that one we have identified. And then we can check for some fuel leakages on the fuel injection pump as well as the metal pipes. One more important thing is, these are rubber hoses which are called diesel overflow hoses, and over a period of time these develop cracks. If these are not cleaned on a time to time basis, you will never know when it developed a crack, or you will not be able to replace it on time. And as a result, sometime you are on the mid of a journey and you will develop some leaks from these overflow pipes, and it will definitely flood the engine bay with fuel. So to avoid that, always check these overflow pipes as well. Next thing, you can do a general inspection near the fuel injection pump area and also the fuel filter area for any leaks. If they are clean, you will easily identify the leaks. And make it a habit to check your engine bay at least once a week, because this is a very old vehicle. So it's better to check the engine bay once in a week or once in 2 weeks. Another thing, lot of people complain that they are losing the coolant level, but there is no visible leaks. The culprit is always the radiator hose. Over a period of time, this radiator hose develops cracks near this hose clamp area, around this area. And if you don't clean the engine bay on a time-to-time basis, you may never know. And once it gets cracked, it will develop very fine holes that will start to seep water or the coolant. So when you are idling the engine, you may not notice any leaks from there, but when you rev the engine and you are going on a journey, water seepage will become faster, and as the seepage is very minor, it will get evaporated easily. So you will never see a leak on the floor. But if you clean the radiator hoses on a time-to-time basis, and if it starts developing this water seepage, you will see water dried up marks over the cracked area, and that is an indication that you have to replace the radiator hose. And this is only possible if you clean it on a time-to-time basis. Make sure to wipe the radiator hoses, both the top one and the bottom one, periodically. So these are basically the advantages of cleaning the engine bay. So now let's start the procedure, and we will be removing this fan as well, so that we can clean the bottom part as well as this radiator area. It will be easier to clean that locations. So let's see.
തുടങ്ങി. To remove the valve cover, let's first detach the oil dipstick. There are two 17mm nuts to be removed which hold the valve cover in place. The valve cover and cap was scraped to bare metal and painted at home. We bought a brand new aftermarket valve cover gasket as the old one had deteriorated completely. You may have noticed we have provided slots on the new gasket like that on the old one. These clearance gaps are provided so that when the valve cover gets tightened, the gasket doesn't get warped out of its place. Now let's reinstall the valve cover. After placing a metal washer over a rubber washer, we can tighten the nut by feel. Before talking about the air filter, let's discuss some preliminary inspections on the air filter hose. As it is visible, the hose has gone dry and cracks can be seen on the hose surface, which is why we are replacing it with a new aftermarket EPDM hose. You can see there's a spring inside the old rubber hose. Now what's that for? Well, you see, when the air filter is employed in dusty conditions, it can get clogged up easily. When this happens, the air filter hose can get squeezed due to the vacuum created in the inlet manifold, which may decrease inlet airflow and result the engine to shut off itself. So, do make sure your vehicle has the spring inside the air filter hose. And now, let's transfer the spring to the new air filter hose. After properly closing the inlet manifold, let's go over to the air filter. Link to the air filter cleaning video is given in the description. You can check it out. We are going to paint the air filter at home, so there are some prep work to be done. First of all, we completely scraped off the old paint, primer, everything and brought it back to fresh metal. For that, we used an angle grinder with a wire wheel attachment, as you can see. Now with the magic of editing, painting is done. Now that we have fixed the air filter back onto the Jeep, there's only one more thing to do, to fill up the oil itself. For that, there's a hole marking in the center of the oil bath. Fill oil to that level and you're good to go. Okay, now before removing the radiator, let's drain the coolant first. While the coolant drains, we can remove the surge tank, also known as the coolant expansion tank. Cleaning the surge tank is the easiest thing because we are buying a new one. Hehe. You can see the part number over here. These are still available in most places, so buy one while you can. By removing the 4 mounting bolts, we can lift the radiator off the Jeep. You should also remove the grille stud bar. Now let's lift the radiator. Yep, that's heavy. Let's remove the radiator fan as well. Just like with our air filter, we are given a similar treatment to the radiator as well. One thing to note while doing on the radiator is that do not use the wire wheel on a particular spot for a long time, as the thickness of the copper surface will decrease. So we have coated the radiator in matte black with aerosol cans, and I think it came out pretty good. All the openings and connections were properly masked off, so it looks neat. Now let's install the clean radiator fan. While at it, we also replace the fan belt with a new one. Now let's carefully reinstall the radiator using new mounting bolts, hoses and hose clamps. We've also installed the new surge tank. For a pressurized cooling system to work properly, a good quality radiator cap is a must. What we are using is a radiator cap by TVS, which has a pressure rating of 7 pounds or 0.5 bar. Always use products from OEM suppliers. Now let's top up the radiator with coolant and distilled water in the ratio as specified by the coolant manufacturer. If you have a paintbrush and some enamel paint lying around, you can do this. The only thing is that be sure to mask off all the bolt heads, exposed gaskets and everything. The same air filter treatment is given to the oil filter as well. For sound deadening, we are using some black thermocol foam sheets. These are mostly for looks rather than actual sound insulation. Anyway, we have used new rubber grommets as well. We are also changing the thermocol grill beading that isolates the bonnet. If it's a thermocol foam stick-on type like what we have, be sure to use some Fevicol SR998 gum. The gum that's already on the beading is literally of no use. Now let's see how the thermocol lining inside the bonnet is changed. Exposed bolts are more seen on Jeeps, so take your time and align those bolt heads to give your touch of attention to detail. Headlights. The beam assembly we are currently using is a Hella 7-inch premium steel beam. It is good in beam definition, beam strength. The beam is a bit wide, but that's okay. The headlight dome we are using right now is an open dome. We will be converting it back to a closed dome. This is the closed dome that originally came on our Jeep. As you can see, the headlight leveling screws got stuck, which is when we shifted to an open dome. But it was not that good in quality, which is why we bought a set of brand new Hella headlight assemblies. We won't be needing this lens or the wires. Now that's looking good. We'll now remove the open headlight dome and install the closed one. Now that's looking good. We have fabricated a dedicated earth connection for our headlights. Let's now tuck down the harness with a clamp. Now let's carefully remove the insulation on the bulb connector. Oh, let's cut it off. So that's it for today.
The next day.
The wires you're seeing right now are the positive wires, that's for the high beam, low beam and park. The current wires are of 1 mm size. It is advisable to use 2.5 mm size of wires for headlights. We'll be changing it to 2.5 on a later day.
Why can't you do it right now?
Oh no, it's very time consuming. We are already behind schedule. We'll do that on a later day, okay? These are the dedicated earth connections I was talking about. These connections are for the headlight and the park light. The connections have been soldered to the wire and covered with heat shrink tubes. The same procedure will be done for the positive wires too. Now what you are going to see is a basic wire soldering procedure. So let's start. Take the clip connector and crimp it onto the wire using a pair of nose pliers. For the time being we don't have a wire crimping tool, so we use the nose plier. Now before soldering, apply some solder flux onto the wire strands. As you heat up the wire using the soldering iron, apply solder lead sufficiently. This is how the solder joint will look. Now let's cover the clip connector with some heat shrink tube. To shrink the tube, you can use a heat gun or a normal gas lighter. I like to use the gas lighter. Don't burn yourself, okay? Because there are no electrical connections required and you can use it anywhere, anytime. Thus we have properly soldered and sleeved the wires for our headlights. Anyway, we'll be doing a detailed video on headlights and automotive wiring in our mini restoration series, so stay tuned for that.
Anytime soon?
Absolutely. Thus we have wired all the connections for the headlight and tied up the wiring harness. Now let's see how the headlights perform on the road. If you loved what you're watching right now, then a subscribe would be delightful. All electrical connections must be removed and inspected, period. If oxidation is found on the surface of the connection, clean it with a sandpaper. Like I mentioned in the headlight section, clip connector wires must be soldered to the clip. to prevent further oxidation. Using zip ties, tidy up loose wires and small harnesses. To clamp down the big harness, you can make a clamp yourself using this old type cycle stand clamp and some heat shrink, as you can see in the video. To fix the clamp onto the body, you can use an M8 bolt and nut. Now that you've come this far, let's watch a recap.
We hope you liked our video and we hope it was informative for you. If you have any concerns or you have any feedbacks or queries, do comment below the video or send an email to us at bosegaragesnow@gmail.com. So thanks for watching Bose Garage. See you soon with another video.
Thank you.